Texas A&M has a new head coach. Mike Elko is going to be the head coach in College Station for the next couple of years. This was a pretty solid hire by Texas A&M. It's not insanely flashy because unless you really keep up with the sport, Mike Elko isn't really a huge name that many people are going to know about. But he probably was one of the best head coaching candidates out there, considering what has been out there in this coaching carousel. Outside of Jonathan Smith, Mike Elko has been pretty highly talented. And you look at what he did at Duke, really impressive. He won 9 games at Duke in 2022, his first season, which took a lot of people by surprise because most people thought that Duke was going to be terrible his first season there. And then they go 7-5 this year, which may not be all that impressive on paper, but they dealt with some injuries to their starting quarterback, Riley Leonard. But they did have some really good performances. They played really great against Notre Dame. They had a big win early on this season when they smacked Clemson. And not just did they smack Clemson, but they embarrassed Clemson. They dominated them. At a school like Duke, to beat Clemson the way that they did is a testament to how good of a coach Mike Elko is. Now, when it comes to evaluating how successful Mike Elko is going to be at Texas A&M, it's going to be measured by, is he going to be able to get this team to the SEC championship? And is this team going to be able to reach the college football under him? Because you see, Texas A&M now, they're a team, they're a program that's good enough where they should be competing for conference titles and the national championship nearly every single year. Mike Elko, he's a pretty good coach when it comes to being able to connect with players. He's also a really good recruiter as well. He did a really good job at acquiring talent via the transfer portal and hitting the recruiting trail pretty good at Duke. And at a school like Texas A&M, with him pretty much having unlimited resources, as much money as he wants to give out to these recruits for NIL deals, I saw a story, and it was a report that said that Jimbo Fisher was so concerned about having a #1 recruiting class a couple of years ago that he hit up 247 Sports to see how their recruiting class rankings work, and he pretty much was buying up all the top recruits without doing due diligence into their character. For Mike Elko, this is a dude who's all about character. He's all about building a program the right way. And with how easy it is to recruit at Texas A&M, Mike Elko should kill it on the recruiting trail. And when it comes to his in-game decision-making, I think he's way better than Jimbo Fisher in that department. Do you know how hard it is to win at Duke? Duke isn't one of these programs that's consistently winning 8-9 games every single season. It's hard to recruit there because of the academic standards. And then 2, you're not really always able to sell people on the idea of playing for Duke, and they don't have a really big NIL backing. And one thing that really pops out to you when you look at Mike Elko's Duke coach teams is that they fight hard. They never quit. They're really gritty. Texas A&M, one thing that I've seen them lack this season is grit and toughness. I mean, they could have beaten Alabama this season. Honestly, it wasn't like Alabama rolled over Texas A&M. Texas A&M is just a team that, under the last couple of seasons of Jimbo Fisher, they haven't had that grittiness and that toughness that it takes to be a championship caliber program. Well, Mike Elko, he should be able to give you this. But at the same time, though, if you ask me how I feel about this hire, I'm still on the fence with it. Because there's been plenty of promising head coaches that I felt who did a really good job winning at programs that didn't have the same amount of resources. And then they get to these programs and they act like they don't know how to use all these unlimited resources. So I still think that this is a pretty good hire. But at the same time, I'm not going to get overly high on this hire. I'm not saying that because it's not a big name hire. Like, I respect what Mike Elko has done. And I feel like at worst, Texas A&M is probably going to win 8-9 games a season under Mike Elko. But to have this team consistently competing for the SEC championship and being in the college football playoffs every single season, those are the expectations for him. And if you're saying otherwise, then you're wrong. A&M is looking for a coach that can get them over the hump anymore. They're no longer a a rising powerhouse, like how people try to view Arizona State and Arizona. Like, they came close to making it to the playoffs in 2020. They recruit way too good, and they have way too high recruiting classes not to be winning championships. They've had like the top 5 most talented team in college football for the past 3 seasons, and they've never played like that. If Mike Elko can do a really good job recruiting, developing these players, and having these players play at their peak potential, there's no reason why this couldn't be a team to win it all. When's the last time Texas A&M had a first-round pick? I can't remember the last time these boys had a first-round pick since what? Myles Garrett and Luke Joeckel and Mike Evans? That was about it. And Johnny Manziel. So it's like Texas A&M needs somebody who's good with player development, and I think you're getting that. But when it comes to being able to consistently compete for a national championship or being able to compete for the conference, it's really tough. This conference is a dogfight. The majority of college football's highest paid coaches are in the SEC. You got Lane Kiffin. You got Nick Saban, Brian Kelly, Kirby Smart, Josh Heupel is coming up. There are so many great coaches in this conference that for a dude like Mike Elko, I'm just not going to come out and say that you're guaranteed to make it to the top. This is a really good hire in my opinion, but I don't know necessarily if it's going to equate to him necessarily being able to turn Texas A&M into a powerhouse. It's just a little bit too early for me to say that. I need to see the coaching staff. But with the college football playoffs expanding to 12 teams, it has a really good chance of happening. Hell, that thing is probably going to become the Big 10, Big 12, and SEC Invitational. Probably the Big 10 and SEC Invitational. But I think this was a pretty solid hire. I like it. I think it was a little bit better than them initially thinking about hiring Bob Stoops from Kentucky, or not Bob Stoops, Mark Stoops, excuse me. I felt like Mike Elko, with him already having ties to this university, already being a pretty better recruiter than I think what Mark Stoops is, he's a little bit of a better fit for this program. But let me know what you guys are thinking about this hire down in the comment section down below.